good evening. Welcome to this month's Curriculum Pupil-Personnel Committee meeting. Today's Tuesday, June 3rd, and we have a long agenda. So we're going to start with Ms. Druss, who's going to give us an update on AP and Honors History.
Yes, so good evening, everyone. I have several textbooks that we are putting forward for adoption in both science and social studies. So just so everybody knows, the procedure was pretty much the same. We had various teachers look at, score, and interact with all the textbooks we were examining. We use a rubric and a vote system to decide which textbook is going to meet the needs of our learners. So one of the first books is for our AP Gov class, and they decided to go with Bedford, Freeman and Worth, which is pretty much the standard publisher for a lot of the history textbooks. It is a very well-aligned book to the AP course exam description. It has a lot of activities and skill building built onto the platform, which is called Achieve. That is what this publisher uses as their platform for digital work. And one of the things that we really appreciated was, especially for a Gov class, the teachers really spent time going through and vetting to make sure that we are being as unbiased in the publishing as possible, that both sides are presented, and that the information is accurate. So they really felt that this was the most appropriate for that class, and it is a new second edition, so it is brand new, and it will be an ebook for grades 11 through 12 for 6 years. Any questions on that one? The next one, I'm going to explain. So at the high school, we run AP US 1 and AP US 2. Students take the AP exam once they have completed AP US 2 during their junior year. So this textbook will be for 2 years. It will be their textbook in 10th and 11th grade because it begins in 10th and then continues. So again, for this text, we went with Bedford, Freeman and Worth, and this is called Fabric of a Nation. One of the things that the committee was definitely looking at is, again, that alignment. They really liked that this text laid out the chapters by period. So period 1, period 2, which aligns to the exam, which will really help students to be able to move through and really get that time period that they're looking for. Again, it's going to have that Achieve platform. There are AP style questions embedded, which include multiple choice, free response, document-based questions. We looked at several other platforms and other publishers, and this is really the one that they felt would be the most up to date. So that was what we chose for our AP US history. Questions on that one? The next history is our honors US 1 and 2. Again, we're going to use the same textbook because it's US history. One of the things that we were really looking for with this was availability of teacher resources, having really good primary source documentation that the students can work with. And for this, we actually went with Savas, which is US History Interactive. They have a 4-part inquiry learning model that is built into the platform, which is connect, investigate, synthesize, and demonstrate. There are tons of primary sources embedded within this. One of the really nice parts as well is for our honors world history, we use World History Interactive. So the students will be familiar with the platform and how that information is presented. Another thing that the reviewers really liked was that it's, we're moving much more towards modern times. It goes all the way up to 2020. So that's actually nice to be able to have, because when you have a book for 6 years, a lot changes in 6 years. So it's nice to have things that are more modern, that they can really look through. And there were a great many history teachers on the committee that really spent time looking through all these, vetting, and really looking at these publishers and making those decisions for history. Any questions on the history suite? Okay.
It's science.
So we need a new honors biology textbook. And for that, the committee decided to go with Campbell Biology Concepts and Connections, the 10th edition, sometimes referred to affectionately as Baby Campbell, which is the book that we use for AP Bio. Sorry, I'm a science nerd. So this textbook, again, has a really great interactive platform. There's interactive labs. There are a lot of resources that the students will be able to use as they're studying. Again, this is a digital subscription. It is coming from Pearson, which is no longer Savas. They are now a separate entity. And they really, again, found this textbook to be one of the best that they had to offer. They looked at 3 other publishers, and again, this aligned very well with the skills that we're really trying to get the students to build as they go through science.
And how long is that one for?
6 years.
6 years.
Everything is 6 years.
Anyone else have questions, comments? No?
I have 2 more, sorry. The next one is our environmental science for AP. Again, this one, we went back to the Bedford Publishing. This again is a 6-year digital version. The main thing for this that really sold the committee was that, again, that alignment. A lot of the other environmental textbooks really require students to pick through different chapters to find the information that they need. And this is really laid out where, again, it's very student friendly, where they're going to be able to get the information that they need as a resource. It will be on the Achieve platform again, which has those skills built in, the current events, and that online platform that they will be able to interact with. My last one, which is actually the big one, we are adopting a new K-5 science program. It is TCI that the teacher selected. This is a little different. We actually did have the opportunity for the staff to be able to look and use 2 different textbooks. They were able to do lab activities, teach out of both. And this was, we had representatives from every school, every grade level. This is the text that they chose. TCI stands for Teachers Curriculum Institute. We will be adopting it K-5. It's a very good program. Students will be getting a consumable workbook, as well as an online digital platform that they will have access to. One of the nice benefits to this is all the differentiations are built right in. Right on the platform, it gives the teachers, if you have multilingual learners, if you have special education students, or also if you have students that are ready to move beyond what the instruction is for the rest of the class. So that differentiation piece is very nice. The teacher platform is great to use. There are interactive games. There's super science built in. The teachers really felt that the students enjoyed working through the experiments, and were very excited. The part that I'm excited about is built into every single unit. At the end is a claim evidence reasoning based on a phenomenon, and that's really going to help bring that foundational skill that they need once they get to the middle school. So it's going to really, I think, be a good foundational program for our students as they move through science up into the upper grades. Everything is aligned to the Next Gen Science standards, as well as the New Jersey standards.
I don't know if I missed it or not. Is this a digital too?
So yes, so all students will have access to a digital piece, but there is a consumable workbook that all students will be able to write in, interact with, do their experiments in. All the other texts that I mentioned before the elementary, those are all just exclusively digital.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have questions? No? Right, Gasco?
Okay, so I'm doing a textbook adoption that is for Algebra 1 geometry and Algebra 2. And the majority of the public sort of kind of grouped them together. That's why this is called Envision's AGA, and the AGA stands for the 3 type of courses. It gives you continuity throughout the 3. In particular, it's very important with the Algebra 1 and the Algebra 2 to have continuity. The geometry could be a standalone if there was a better book, but it does help to have, if the algebra is immersed into the geometry, to be able to have it explained the same way, done the same way, and kind of have the same approach going through. This is going to be for 7th grade and 8th grade Algebra 1, including the Algebra 1 at the high school. It's going to be geometry in 8th grade, as well as all of the levels of geometry at the high school, and all of the levels of Algebra 2 at the high school. So one of the things that we look for in particular is a series that has a wealth of resources, so that if students are moving levels or they're not succeeding, or they want to move up, it will cover all those type of things. So this particular program, it's Envisions, which does connect with the elementary program, the K through 8. It's a fairly new program. It's been around more, but this is going to actually be a 2024 edition. I think 2020 might have been their first edition that they had, but it was not around the first time we did it. Going through in terms of the resources, we had presenters from this company for the entire math department. We had presenter for another company, McGraw-Hill with Reveal. And then I did talk to another one, Hoot Mifflin Harcourt, just to see what they have. And this by far had a wealth of materials. Even when I looked at the elementary and the middle school, the 2 big front runners were Reveal with McGraw-Hill and the Envisions by Savas. And they're both very similar in terms of the textbook itself and the philosophy behind it, but the Savas has a wealth of resources that are added to it. They have been around longer in terms of their philosophy, so I think they've just put more time and more money into it. We did also look at the textbook that we currently have, that is a McGraw-Hill product. They will still sell it to you, but they will not put any more money into it. And my fear is in 4 years, it's now going to be a 10-year-old copyright and isn't really going to be up to par. And it's the electronic side, the online, that you really want to watch there. You see a multitude of different prices on here because the middle school gets hard copy and they get electronic, right? And we've been doing that with the elementary as well. The high school will get only electronic. Usually I buy about 10 copies of a hard copy for students that might have some medical needs or things like that. We do always have a few that go along with that. So that's why there's so many different ISBN numbers, because there's one for each one going through. To give you an idea, basically the philosophy is similar to the lower grades, but it's obviously done more at a high school level with more thought put into it. There's a model and discuss. The idea is that you can explore it, you can think about it. Then there's the critical reasoning and explain type of the idea. And then they're going into the conceptual understandings and then give you practice. With the hard copy, and the high school teachers would have access to anything online, there is a student companion that is also included in the price. The student companion would be more for in-class practice, not the homework that goes with it. That would be extra. And that is definitely something that it comes with it, so they will have that as well. Not sure if it's going to get used all the time because it's an honors level at the middle school, but they will definitely have that as a resource for their notes. Another big component that they have with it is that they have activities, online activities that are connected to Desmos and written by Desmos. Some of you might have heard me talk about that beforehand, but it is a very, very successful and popular tool that there is to do different types of explorations with math. And the fact that they now have the lessons connected to it, I think Savas bought out Desmos, or at least bought the lessons that go with it. Another big game changer, and the difference between this program and the McGraw-Hill program, they have Math XL, not IXL, that's a different program, but Math XL, where when we looked at this originally, again with the elementary, that was a whole additional purpose on top of it. They bought that company out, and that is now included in the basic package. So McGraw-Hill will have certain things that line up, but by the time you add in all the extra prices, it was a much bigger price point advantage. So I do think that it's a great tool. They also have the reteach, as they do with the elementary. Like I said, they have a lot of different explorations that you can do, and they have an enrichment that goes along with it. Again, hands down, the teachers at the high school, because they saw both presentations, were actually thrilled with this one, like head and shoulders over it. The middle school only saw one of the two. They liked the reveal, but they understood that this was very similar, and we're going to bring in the publisher also to explain it going through. But I do think this is by far the best program for all. Other than that, it does follow the standards. I like the fact that it's up to date, it's current. Another thing that I looked into when I was going through is that I asked each publisher, give me names of districts in the area that are using them. One of the ones that we looked at with the Houghton Mifflin, there were only 5 districts that she gave me in the state. 4 of the 5 were only using Algebra 1. It was a 2020 copyright, so it had been around, and only 1 district was using geometry. And it was very traditional, very drill and skill. The book itself was good, reminded me of a book we'd had maybe 10, 15 years ago. Don't think they're up to par with the resources. But like I said, other than that, I think, it was truly the teachers are all on board with this, and I think, and I gave them the option of repeating the one they have, just with the understanding that there's no more additional resources that are going back into it from the company. Are there any questions? I did think it was a good price vantage point too.
Yeah. Anybody have questions?
Can I comment just on the textbook adoption piece? So as you can see, we have a standard process we go through when we involve the teachers, the stakeholders. We reach out to multiple publishers. They come on site. They present to the teachers. At the high school, we run into a challenge sometimes because we dance between collegiate textbooks and high school textbooks. And there's a big difference, you freshman in college, sophomore in college, the big cost for college textbooks. And sometimes we struggle as a public institution when we look for a textbook adoption, kind of getting into, you hear most of these are multi-year adoption pieces. At the collegiate level, sometimes it's, we're going to sell you X amount of licenses. So we have to buy 300 licenses or whatever. Each student uses it. Once they use it, it's disposed of essentially. And then we have to revisit that more often. So there's a lot of variables that go into a textbook adoption piece. It's really driven by our curriculum, how the resources align with that. If it's an AP course, how everything syncs with, in general, the AP structure. And then where does it fall in price point wise and resource wise? And we've seen over several years, companies are putting a lot of time into their digital resources because for, an iPad district at the high school level. So that's an important piece for us. And then we definitely have that technical connection at the elementary and middle school that we're looking for, because it also provides a foundation when they get to the high school. If they're using Pearson or they have that foundation, they can engage in that at the high school level because they're familiar ever since elementary level. So just a general overview for our textbook adoption piece. We had a couple subjects align this year that are typically a little off cycle, and that's just related to, we had an opportunity to get a free year of one of our
The 3 years of mine were, or all 3, the algebra, geometry, and algebra 2, all were given an extra year 7 years ago. So we weren't going to give that up. So it threw my cycle. And
Yeah,
Danielle.
so we have a double cycle this which is why we have basically 2 large adoptions in sequence. We typically stagger them. Again, when we look at budgeting at a district, we're looking for a consistent expenditure, which is why we're looking for every year kind of turning things over. So everything kind of aligned this year, which we're not going to turn down a free year. Obviously, it's a big piece. So, several years ago, we made that commitment, and it's, we're actualizing that double piece this year. So,
And
but
these are all for September?
these are for September, and everything's been budgeted for. It's gone through, it's been vetted. And what we're pleased to look at is most of the textbook adoptions are going to probably come in under what our initial budgeting piece was. Because when we do our budgeting piece, we're using previous year's costs, and then we have, a slight increase to it. And a lot of times, the companies come in and they either held their prices the same or they're slightly lower than our initial budget. So again, we're not talking significant, but we're well within the budget range of what we budgeted for these books.
That's great. Thank you.
Just one quick.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Mr.
just haven't done what you guys went through whenever you have to adapt a textbook. I can appreciate, I don't think people realize, or and they might, the amount of work that you folks must put into, I know the amount of work you do, and in order to adapt a textbook. I like the rubric, and the way you set it up, and the way you explained it, and also the differentiation, all the pieces were so clear, and I thank you so much. Good job, well done. Thank you.
Mrs. Gasco, did you have to go over the curriculum documents or no?
I have
Oh,
one
you did.
thing. Yes.
Okay.
All right, ready for that one?
Great.
Okay, the last one for the year is Alv 1AB. We were doing a lot, you know,
The last one for the
textbooks too.
year.
But we also remember we had the new standards. We had the 2023 standards. So geometry will be up for next year, but I did all the algebra ones and all the geometry. So this course is very similar in terms of content to the regular algebra one, but it is double the amount of time, which means when writing the curriculum, you really have to like focus on the type of activities that you're doing. Make sure that there's rigor in there where they're learning the concepts and they're retaining it. The retaining in terms of the spiraling is big in that class where they have a lot of practice to go through. We've had a lot of experience with Dr. Paul Riccomoni and just in terms of helping the teachers to do things to go with that. The other big thing was just making sure that we had the mandates in the curriculum. So it's up to date with all of the standards. It does not have the new book in terms of resources because that was not part of it at that time. But resources are just there for the teachers to give them some ideas. The document is written through the standards going through. One of the big things is the inclusion of climate change. And what's nice about the standards, they actually give you set examples that you can do. And when we went through CUSAC, that was one of the things they wanted. Just to give you an idea for one of the algebra ones here, it says students may create equations and or inequalities to represent the economic impact of climate change. Students may represent constraints describing economic climate change with equations, inequalities, and or systems of equations. It even clarifies within the standards within Atlas, which are good for Algebra 1, which are good for Algebra 2, because the standards do group the two together going through, but it really gives them a lot of practice. But this needed to be updated. One of the big focal points that I have is making sure that the electronic resources and the technology resources are very specific to the unit. That's something over the last few revisions we've really upped the game on because I don't want to just be told Desmos can be used and give me specific examples because Desmos does have actual unit and lessons that are attached to it. Now in particular, we'll have even better ones where they'll just be easier for the teachers to find. Everything is accessible through a Chromebook, a laptop, or an iPad. So it works for all of those going through. But it was, like I said, it was an update, but we make sure that all the standards are included. The other thing that we're worried about too is going through in time to make sure that they can retain the earlier concepts because they build and they spiral. I call Algebra 1 the foundation of all higher level math, regardless of when you're learning it and what age you're learning it. If you do not learn the concepts and retain them of Algebra 1, it will be very hard to do even the geometry, and in particular the Algebra 2 and above. So getting those concepts down, it's why we have the course with the double block. It gives them a lot of internal practice going through. So
That's what I wanted to just say in case members of the public don't know what a double block is. It means that they have the class every day, essentially. Instead of every other, they're going to this class every day.
in my math brain, not being quite as creative as possibly a language arts brain,
Yeah,
AB stands for every A day and every new day.
yeah. Any questions on that? No? Okay. And now we're going to summer programming and ESY.
Yep.
Are we starting with you, Mr. Malva, first?
Sure, I'll be very brief.
Okay.
Last month, we talked about our new plans for our summer mediation program, which we collected the name for, MTSC Virtual Plus. We moved forward and we're in the process of arranging our staff development, and we're excited. We met with the guidance counselors last week, Dr. Spermansky and Dr. Higgins, along with guidance counselors. We discussed what new options would be available for our students seeking summer remediation. We're excited that we're well ahead of schedule, preparing ourselves for any possible students that we need from the school. We've also settled on a price point, which is under $200. We settled at $195, which is about $65 than the running price for any external, $65 less than all of the current approved, virtual summer remediation options available to the high school students. So, we're happy to report that not only do we think we'll offer a superior product with embedded support, but we'll also be able to offer it for considerably less money than anyone else out there. And again, we're in the process of finalizing our staff, so at the next board meeting, we'll see recommendations for summer school staff.
You just review it's one day in person and then,
Sure, and that embedded support, which will be available to students, is not mandatory. It's just, it could be arranged as needed, whether that be at the teacher's recommendation or at the student's request. And we're still going through all of the nuances of that. And much like Ms. Gasko and I were discussing before, in preparation for our summer advancement program, we will be bring virtual orientation for all of our participating students. On the flip side of things, with our summer enrichment program, since we last met, we had launched our first enrichment journey into biotechnology, medical, and healthcare enrichment. We're calling it the MTSD Med Lab as a summer enrichment program. And we sold 80 tickets within less than a full week span to members of the school district. So that didn't, and that's sold out, by the way. So we are completely capped out for that particular program. We're excited about that, but we're not surprised. As you recall, we did survey the public prior to launching that program, and we were able to identify a want, and we were excited to be able to deliver that. Last Friday, Ms. McLeod and I met with the instructors who have been approved to teach that course to begin developing and adding some more of the details to that program. And now that Ms. Struck's Kind series is about to be implemented, we look forward to kind of diving into that and finding additional ways to align these enrichment programs to what the teachers are going to be doing. And as mentioned in our last Citizens Advisory Committee, all resources required for this pilot will then subsequently be distributed for teachers. So that's the update on the enrichment and programming. ESY, before I throw it over to special ed for any updates you got all the way down there. We are prepared, we are fully staffed on the enrichment side of things to fully support ESY. And we're actually coordinating right now with our art and culinary and some of our music specialists to make sure that our ESY students will have access to those enrichment programs. Again, we do have more flexibility at the high school to embed the ESY, the older ESY students, but that's not to say we won't be supporting Oak Tree. We will be sending some of our specialists down to Oak Tree as well. And Ms. Rodan and we'll be coordinating our schedules for the next couple of weeks. Take a look over there. You guys are on the wrong side. In case you missed the memo.
any questions about the pilot program? The Med Lab? No.
Okay, so ESY is going well. We are pretty much fully staffed now. Almost everyone was approved on the last board agenda at that meeting, and we have a few people that will be approved at this next board meeting, but otherwise we'll be fully staffed and ready to go. All of our parents already received the letters offering the program to their students, anyone who was eligible. And that we had a time frame for them to respond. We still have some students who have not responded yet, but some of those are due to IEP meetings not having been completed yet and updating to offer the ESY program. And others are just, they haven't responded yet. So we'll follow up with them, reach out to them and try to get them to come, obviously, but either find out either way what's, what their plan is for the upcoming summer. That's, otherwise, we're just planning, I just reserved all the rooms within the high school. We have a rooms reserved at Oak Tree.
The hours for ESY.
Yes, for the high school, it will be from 8 to 12 again, and Oak Tree, it will be from 9 to 1. And we'll offer all related services like we always do, whatever is in the IEP is offered to our students during ESY.
Anybody, any questions about ESY? Extended school year? No? Everyone's quiet today. Okay, so contracts.
Yep.
That's what's left.
So we have,
Agenda.
on this board agenda, you'll see contracts both from the district side in terms of operational pieces, and then you have some of the curricular contracts. There's no new companies that we're working with or anything. We likely have, with the exception of the company that we'll be using as our online platform for the remediation, the summer school piece. So that will be one addition that once we finalize that number, we'll update that, and that'll be on the board agenda. Other than that, it's our typical athletic contract renewals. One thing you won't see on there is our ice hockey contract at this point. We're not gonna have an ice hockey team, so that is something that we didn't budget for, and we also aren't planning on expending at this point. You'll see we have SCORE as our as a tool that the high school uses and high school students use in terms of kind of career readiness as well as college planning. We've used Naviance historically in the past. Last year, we transitioned the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors to SCORE. We maintained the seniors on Naviance. This year, as the juniors become seniors, they will continue with SCORE. So we will no longer be using Naviance. And then at the middle school, where we have used Naviance, we will be using SCORE. So that was a change we made last year. We discussed it's a user-friendly resource. It's a little cheaper than Naviance. It does the same thing. It got really positive reviews so far this year from both staff and students. The counselors piloted it, previewed it last year before we did any of the transitions. So if you look at a difference between just basically changing companies and saving some money on that and finishing the transition, a notable is Linkit. We are still paying for Linkit with our federal funding. So that is grant funded fees. We've been using federal funds for the past few years. We're going to continue to use the grant funds as long as we have them. So that's a nice piece that we will continue to use. And do you have any athletic contracts that you want to highlight or anything, Steve?
I mean, no, they're all basically the exact same thing we had last year. You know, many of the vendors that we had held their prices, which was pretty nice.
Yeah.
You know, like, what we used for cheerleading for mat rental, it stayed the same. The past have tried raising the prices. We did have conversations with them and they've kept it the same for the last 2 years, which is nice. As well as some of the other subscriptions that we have. Huddle stayed around the same as well, which is the big one that we use for, you know, for streaming some of the games. Everything else for the most part is around the same.
Yep. Yeah, and that's one thing notable is the contracts or the numbers have either maintained the same number or had, you know, nominal, minimal increases. So, you know, we were looking for anything that would be a red flag for us, especially as we designed the budget, you know, in last fall. So we got preliminary costs and preliminary prices, and we didn't see any major changes. We adjusted enrollments where appropriate in terms of, you know, per pupil pricing for any of the contracts. Some of the contracts, if the pupil numbers are the same as last year, which reflect maybe a slightly larger enrollment than we have, they're being held there because if we go down, we lose our bulk discount and we end up paying more for less students. So we're going to keep our enrollment consistent there. But outside of that, our contracts, like I said, are consistent. Everything between Huddle and Linkit and NWM app and consistent products. Again, that's one thing we looked at as we planned for this year was maintaining our programs, maintaining the level of academic rigor, maintaining the textbook access and program access. And that's something we did in the budget development process, and it reflects as we go through and sign off and move forward with all these contracts.
I did have a question about the hockey. I remember we were talking not too long ago that we were gonna do like a joint.
Yes.
So next year there's no hockey team, or is that the joint?
So we
What we're
did,
talking about.
we did get approved for the co-op, so we
Okay.
co-opted
Co-op,
with,
that's the question.
I think that's the tryout now, for 3 teams, with South Brunswick and North Brunswick.
Oh, so it's 3 and
So you still will have,
So we will work, what'll happen is that the process that's followed is you have to apply to the state first in order to make sure that the state approves it. So we had a discussion with the individual boards, just to make sure that we're gonna put in the application. Application was put in, it was accepted, and now we have to sit down, the individual schools, and just work on that contract so that we're all on the same page, and then it'll come to the board for approval.
And what kind of grouping do they play? Do they play in with other teams that have 3 teams with them?
Yeah, so the way that it works with hockey is they have different groups, and there is a specific group for co-op teams
Okay.
or tryout teams, and then that's how they, you know, whenever they have championships and stuff, it's all based off those individual groupings.
Okay, and it's all, okay, by the NJSIA?
It's all approved by the NBSI. Yeah, hockey happens to be the only team, the only sport that they allow tryout. Everything else, they
Really?
allow co-ops. You do have some schools that unfortunately can't provide, or don't have the resources to provide specific sports, so they allow two schools to come together in a co-op, but hockey is the only one that allows tryout.
Wow, okay, thank you.
So then when we said no ice hockey contract, doesn't mean we're not having ice hockey.
Correct.
It just,
Right.
okay.
I
Yes,
should
that
say
was my only
contract
question.
for the ice.
Yes.
For the ice.
There we go, that's better. No,
We have a team, so thank you
That's
for clarifying.
okay.
The ice contract,
Okay.
the ice contract,
Yes.
That-
Ice contract?
Gotta be ice somewhere.
Then I gotta do the minutes and I wanna make sure I do it
yeah,
right.
yeah. We still have,
Yes.
we will still have an
A
opportunity
teal,
for our.
but we don't need to,
With North and
to
South.
rent ice any longer.
South Brunswick and North Brunswick, yes. Yeah, the information will go out to the team as we get closer as to what this, what the tryouts look like and all, since it is a little different than what we've had in the past.
How do you pick I'm sorry, how do you pick a coach for something like that?
So whenever you have a co-op or a tryout, one of the schools has to be on the record as being like the home team. And in
Okay.
this case, it is South Brunswick, as they had the.
Do they have
existing
a,
co-op.
have an ice hockey rink? Yes.
That's the way they already had it set up. So as we had conversations about exploring the tryout, that was something that was already discussed, that they would remain as the host school.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and
So we will have ice hockey expenses, which are budgeted for.
like transportation and all that.
And basically, it'll end up most likely being a per pupil cost.
Right.
So if we have 3 students that make the co-op, whatever the agreement will reflect the cost per athlete,
Mhm.
that's divided equally amongst the teams. So we have 3 and another district has 10.
Right.
And another district has 10. It's all divided equally and we just pay our share, which
Mhm.
goes towards ice, which goes towards the coaching stipends and things like that. So we have.
All that will be stipulated in the contract. Actually, having a meeting with the other two schools tomorrow to start discussing that, to have it ahead of time, and that we can present it to the board.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, that is good. I'm glad we're not losing.
Mm-hmm.
No kids are interested,
We also host our own team. We don't pay our
Right.
ice.
but we're still not losing those kids.
Nope, and they have an opportunity to do that as well. If
Right.
they choose to.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's great.
Okay, I think the last person is Mr. Snyder. You have
Yes.
some exciting news?
I have some exciting news. Thank you.
Okay.
So good evening, everyone. I am thrilled to announce and bring to the committee that recently we got some amazing news that for the first time ever, the Monroe Township School District has been recognized by the NAM Foundation as a best community for music education for 2025.
That's great.
For the first time ever. This national recognition is awarded to school districts that demonstrate an exceptional and ongoing commitment to providing all students access to a high-quality music education. So a little bit about this. Each year, the NAM Foundation evaluates districts nationwide in every state in the country through a rigorous application process. I can attest to that because it took me 7.5 hours to complete. So, it is reviewed by the arts research firm Wolf Brown, and the evaluation, they look at many things such as curriculum, staffing, funding, facilities, student participation from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, community engagement and involvement, and student accomplishments, such as Arts Day participation in region ensembles, all state ensembles, and even all Eastern ensembles. It also takes into consideration opportunities for staff development, for example, such as the ability for staff to attend state and national conferences in music education. Now, the question is really what sets us apart from the rest of the districts in not only New Jersey, but around, because the whole country, only a little under 1,000 districts in the entire country received this honor for 2025. So time to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, because I highlighted some things that sets us apart from the rest. What sets us apart is really the depth, the vision, and the excellence of the music program from elementary through high school. A couple of our highlights. We have here what I believe is the gold standard of instrumental music teaching, called vertical teaching, where every band director is a specialist on their instrument, and they start the kids in 4th grade, no matter which elementary school they go to, and they stay with them through their education all the way through high school, and our teachers travel in a big circle, and it's lots of fun. We offer probably the most intensive recruitment based system in the whole state, which other districts have modeled off of us. In fact, next week, the whole instrumental team will be at the 3 lower elementary schools, where every single student in 3rd grade, whether they're interested in band and chorus or not, they're going to have an opportunity to interact with our staff members and be fitted on what instrument suits them best. And if choir suits them best, they will be, recommended for that at a later time as well. At the middle school level, our program is just exceptional, offering more ensembles than the average middle school, probably anywhere, if for some statistics. 2 6th grade bands, a 6th grade chorus, 3 jazz bands, 4 percussion ensembles, 7th and 8th grade chorus, chamber singers, 7th and 8th grade band, and a newly formed middle school wind ensemble, just for 3 grades, which is exceptional. At high school, our program really expands, and we offer a really strong balance, which is important, between academic rigor and performance. Our honors are top performing ensembles which are audition based. So honors treble choir, concert choir, percussion ensemble, and wind ensemble are all honors weighted credit, which is fantastic. And we have a place for all students in our high school program, because for every honors performing ensemble, we also have 1 to 2 ensembles that are open to any student in Monroe Township High School, and that are non-audition based. This year, we are very excited that in the next school year, we are also expanding our piano program to offer an honors weighted piano class as well at the high school. So now that's another one on the list. Our AP Music Theory course has been up and running, but it is also dual accredited through Middlesex County currently, through the college. So it's exceptional with that. Just some highlights. Our wind ensemble was invited to the NJMEA State Gala 3 years in a row. Additionally, our honors percussion ensemble was WGI champions 3 years in a row. And this year, our high school band and chorus had the honor of performing in Hawaii at the National Veterans Day Parade, which is just a fabulous time had by all. Additionally, aside from those, our district has really become a destination where world-class performing artists and composers have visited through, I would say, the past 7 or 8 years. Just in the past couple of years, we've had 2 of the most prominent band composers in the world right here in our district working with our students, William Owens and Carol Britton Chambers. We have worked with them specifically on music that they have written and that our students have performed. So they got to work hand in hand, composer to ensemble, playing their music, and that has been performed the past couple of years at in our concert series. We've been very fortunate through the years to receive grant funding, and I want to highlight a couple of those. So last summer, 2 of our middle school choir teachers, Miss Schmetter and Miss Costantino, got funding to go to Mexico to study music and the culture there in Mexico, and they brought that back, implementing it into their classes and their ensembles in a curricular fashion, talking about the dances that they learned over there and really deep into the culture. A few years ago, we actually had the opportunity to screen a documentary which was on the history and culture of the marimba and vibraphone, 2 percussion instruments. The film was called Talking Sticks, and the main character in the documentary was right here doing the film screening for us, which was a great community event. And I want to pat ourselves on the back just a little bit more. Mr. Monroe and I, this was back when I was a teacher, this is probably back in 2017, 2018. I remember sitting in Zach's office at the time saying that I wanted to commission a piece of music for my percussion ensemble at the time. We worked it out through a lot of different steps and processes. The piece was called Luminescence. We gave the premiere at the middle school in 2018. One of the memory I will always remember. Now in 2025, I go on YouTube and I see this in touch with the publisher that publishes the piece. The piece has now been performed over 100 times across the globe, like internationally, all this stuff. And it started really in Zach's office back in 2017. So it's really just tremendous what we've been able to accomplish. And in my 2 years in this role, this is definitely one of the most proudest achievements we have. But we don't just stop here. as Mr. Payne can tell you, we take our program into the community. We are very active in Monroe. Our ensembles perform regularly in retirement communities, concert series in them, and in very important township events. One of them that is near and dear to my heart, the Ohm 5K. We always have performing groups there. In the holiday season, you can find our choirs and jazz bands performing at the Menlo Park Mall, at the Monroe Township Library, at the rec center. We're all over the place. And if a community wants us, we will, that's all we have to do is snap our fingers and ensembles will jump. So, because our staff is very excited to do this and to get out into the community. So that's all just some highlights of kind of what brought us to receive this honor. This is a recognition. Of course, it doesn't just happen with just one. It is truly a team. So I want to thank all of the music staff here at Monroe for their incredible work as educators and the work that they do for their students. Of course, all of our students, their talent and dedication is just fantastic to their craft. The unwavering support of our families and community of the arts and music, and of course to our district administration, our building principals, and everyone here for just the support of this. So I was very, very proud to receive this, and I hope this is the first year of many that we received this. So if you go on the NAM Foundation website and you type in, you can see all the districts that won it. When you look in New Jersey, you type our school in, and it will take us actually right to the district website, I believe. So, so I wanted to, they sent us a certificate. Mr. Monroe agreed to be my Vanna White here, so I didn't intend to, figure go big or go home, right? So, let's take a look at this. I have to figure out how to do this, but.
Very nice.
We're gonna hang this somewhere, I just don't know where yet, but. Yeah,
Somewhere near something.
well, I want to thank Ms. Hawkshurst for her assistance in printing this out. So, I'm not gonna.
Mr. Snyder, can I ask how many students? Not often, can you just give me a guess, but how many students are involved in all of the programs you went through?
Got it. Yeah. That was actually one of the questions that I had to answer. I don't have it, I have the application still on hand, but our elementary schools, just starting in elementary school, our Appleworth band has 150 kids in it by itself. So there's probably 400 band students, 400 choir students just in the elementary schools alone. Our middle school has great retention for many of those students, and our high school is in the, I would say by the time they get to high school, we're still in the mid-hundreds for students throughout all these programs. So we're very, very fortunate in that, and we're again very thankful to all of the parents who support their students in music education, because they don't go from that in elementary school all the way through high school without you know, the support of them. And I can tell you, this year we graduated one of the largest senior when at the concerts when we see all the seniors get honored. This was one of the largest senior classes that we ever graduated. And think about it, these students went through the COVID era as well, and they still stayed through the program and did that. So so it's very
wonderful.
very exciting. So
Wonderful.
some good news.
Yes, very good news.
Any questions from anyone in the committee? No? Okay, so that concludes our meeting for this month. I know this is a busy time of year, so I want to thank everybody for taking the time to come out tonight, because I know how difficult May, June meetings are. Thank you.
Thank you.